So that was a great declaration that Veronica spoke out about identity, to accept our identity. But as we know, we want to accept that identity, but there's all these trees that we have in us that need to come out. There's no room if we don't pull out you got to get the weeds out of the garden before you plant it, do you not? Right?
Yes.
And if you go in a field and you say, oh, I'm going to have a garden, it takes you like at least 3 years to even be able to plant something in order to not have the weeds choke out what's there. And so today we're going to talk about the demons of smallness. We're going to talk about smallness. And smallness is a big topic. This is not a little topic. And we have quite a few weeks here before we do lay down. There's lots of aspects, and anybody who's been working on this knows that there's a lot of going on. Plus, we need to be able to recognize it as well. So, there's a few people in the audience today that I have to keep awake. Please poke your neighbor and help us out. Right? Anyway, we are very thankful that we are alert today. Okay, so we're going to look at this demon of smallness and how Satan uses smallness to block your identity and your faith level. And declaring smallness, if we watch what we say, we will see that we are declaring smallness, and it shortens our life. It doesn't bring life to us. Well, Satan doesn't bring life to anything. And you will notice a lot of bitterness, and that bitterness reduces our faith. We were just talking about, somebody yesterday said, man alive, there's a lot of bitterness in my family. And when the person who said it, we realized that there's a lot of smallness. They've been made very small, and they just make each other small, and it brings in that bitterness. They don't feel like they're part of a team or like a family that works together, right, to build an empire, right? And so they just mention that. So when people treat you small, I'm going to give you what you do, first of all, and we'll do that at the end as well, because I think a lot of times when we go through these things, it gets pretty heavy, and you think, okay, but how do I get out of it? You feel like you're underneath a cement block, when someone treats you small. So let's see if I have an example. We'll have a lot of examples from yesterday, but let's just okay. For instance, I'll use a different one. Okay, so let's say you have, you're in business with a partner, and your partner goes out of the business, and that partner is to come over, and you have to get out of the building that you're in. And so you call that partner up and say, listen, what do you want to take? We need to clean this up. And they come over, and they take what they want, and they leave all the garbage for you to take to the dump, right? That takes hours and hours and truckloads to get rid of. Okay, so what they're saying is you are small, and they're victimizing you. So the first thing you do is declare the gift of forgiveness, which we know from Yeshua's example, that's the first thing we do. And then you declare that you choose not to accept anything from bitterness. And then you ask God for the guidance to lay that smallness down. Because there's a lot of aspects just in that right there with somebody doing that to you. They come and take the best, and you can clean up the trash. Right? So if we do that to each other in the congregation, if everybody left their bowls all over the place, well, you prepared my food, now I can pick my bowl up off the floor. Oh, you can wash it and put it in the cupboard too. Well, what are you treating everybody like? Small. Right? I gotta lay that down, can you tell? I lay that down. So, that's treating people small. That's not saying we're part of this together and we're enjoying something together, right? Clean up after yourself, right? So, number one of smallness we start with is, do you remember in school when the other students would take a daisy and they pop the petals off? and they would say, he loves me not, he loves me not. Well, we think that that's really funny, but are you a petal? Or is your whole life, oh, I'm loved and I'm not loved because of somebody's whims? Like, why would we say that? So we do think it's cute in school. But this is looking at others for evaluation of whether you're loved or not. And it is ultimate smallness. Being reduced to a petal on a flower that's not even going to last an hour. So once you accept the curses of smallness, you have a difficulty in reading God's word. You avoid God's word, and you avoid dealing with anything of pain. You cannot accept God's love. Just even small adjustments. The problem is when you're really small, when you feel really small, even if someone makes a small adjustment with you, you'll feel like your legs are being cut off. And so I've had this feeling before, where I've been out somewhere, and someone would say to me, "Oh no, that doesn't go over there, it goes over here." And I felt like I had just killed somebody. But that's exactly, it's just, so think about that when somebody reacts to you, when you just tell them one little thing, and they react to you what are you doing to me? Why did you come at me so hard? That's that's smallness working in them. That's what happens. Also, they're scared and fearful that you get scared and fearful that you will be condemned and there'll be no relief. So that's why they come at you so hard. And 3, they're thinking that God will condemn you. Instead, he's encouraging, and the word is encouraging. But people see God as a condemning God because we have that religiosity, which is a box of condemnation. You're in the seat of condemnation with religion. And you can see that, even at a wedding, How many weddings have you been to and you see people officiating the wedding? If there's a justice of peace, you'll see, it's different. If it's a really religious minister, you'll feel condemnation. They might not be wanting to be condemning at all. But that religiosity, when they're in that religiosity and they're in a box of condemnation, the things that come off of them can hit you as condemnation. So you kind of have to watch how you respond to people. Because it doesn't mean that they are thinking that at the time or want to be condemning, but when you're in it, it radiates off of you. In Isaiah 41:9-18, it says, "You whom I've taken from the ends of the earth and called from its remotest parts. And I said to you," and that's each and every one of you, "You are my servant. I've chosen you and not rejected you. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about you, for I am your God." Yeshua says, "I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you in my righteous right hand." Great declarations to make. Put them in your back pocket. Say them when you need them. Might be 6-7 times a day.
What was that verse again, Charlie?
This is Isaiah 41:9-18. "Behold, all those who are angered at you will be shamed and dishonored. Those who contend with you will be nothing and will perish. You will seek those who quarrel with you, but you will not find them." And this is something that we find that when we are out doing things or, maybe you're celebrating, and you will find that when you are declaring God's word and his favor and his blessings, his grace and his mercy, that those who have shamed you and dishonored you, you don't find them. They're just not there. When we walk with God, that will happen. Those who contend with you will be nothing and will perish. You will seek those who quarrel with you, but you will not find them. Those who war with you will be as nothing and non-existent. For I am the eternal your God, who upholds your right hand, who says to you, "Do not fear, I will help you. Do not fear, you worm Jacob, you men of Israel. I will help you," declares Yeshua, "and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel." The Holy One of Israel is your Redeemer. And in Psalm 139, 13 to 18, for you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the depths of the earth. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were all written the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. How precious also are your thoughts for me, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I should count them, they would outnumber the sand. When I awake, I am still with you. If we really understood that in our heart, it wouldn't matter what anyone said to us. We'd be able to respond to them in love, because we would so understand that we are so chosen. No one could offend us, because we would know with our real true identity of who we are and how special we are. And more as we see this and our identity grows, we start to see when people say things to us that, oh, I see what's, you see the demons on them. You see what's happened to them, right? And you start praying for them. Yesterday we had one young person who was 10, and he is attacked with autism and Tourette's. So it doesn't say some pleasant things to people. But it was really interesting. As soon as we bound the demons over him a couple of times and prayed peace into him, what the grandmother said was, yeah, we're really amazed that he didn't usually by now he's totally out to lunch. They have to take him home. And it was 11:30 at night, and they're like, wow, we can't believe that he made it this long. And he was having fun. He still did things, right, that were quite alarming, but it wasn't anything that was much than, a moment, and then it just passed, right? So when we can see that in people. Okay, so number 2, so the first one was that whole thing of smallness, where you look to others for evaluation of whether you're loved or not. And God loves us. Number 2, not making as much as you should be earning for what you are doing by people keeping you at the minimum. Minimum money, status, and opportunities are minimized.
Could you say that again?
Yeah, not making as much as you should be earning for what you're doing. And people keeping you at a minimum. In Deuteronomy 28:13, and actually, I'm just thinking about this. You might think this in just jobs and things like that, but if you think about it, when you're not earning, I think about a lot of people who go to university, a lot of people in different countries, like people who have come out of Ireland and stuff, because there's not a lot of jobs, what people will do is hire students, and students are trying to get a position, and they literally will work for free for a year. That's really minimizing somebody,
Yes.
really minimizing them and stealing from them. And then they just go from student to
People on
student.
pension,
Yes,
you see, inflation's going up like this and pension's going up like so.
yeah, pension's not meeting
So you're always
inflation.
being devalued.
Okay, so when you're in a pension situation and inflation's going up and the pension does not equal or surpass the inflation, you're always being made small. So that's definitely something to lay down. Deuteronomy 28:13. The Eternal will make you the head and not the tail, and you will only be above and you will not be underneath. If you listen to the commandments of Yeshua, which I charge you today to observe them carefully, then He is going to make you the head. But He will do it. Your rights as a human being have been minimized when people do not see the value and only keep you at minimum. Children are minimized in so many ways. The first thing they do is they call them kids, which means basically goats for slaughter. They don't see them as a blessing. So calling children kids is a minimization. In Psalm 127:3 it says, "Behold, children are a gift of the eternal. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth." And do people see it that way, right? Okay, number 3. When people keep you at a minimum, the demons of resentment and comparison come in. And that comparison creates a label on you. You end up wearing a compare me label. So do you find that everywhere you go, people are comparing you? Or do you hear other people compare themselves all the time? Or compare somebody, oh, well, you know, last year I'm sure that person weighed 100 pounds, and this year I'm pretty sure they weigh 120 or 30. Just any kind of comparison. Why are you comparing people? Even if you're comparing them to themselves, what are you doing? Why are you comparing them to this ruler that you have? So that keeps people at a minimum, and it keeps you small when they compare you. So you can see that in a marriage, when somebody compares someone to, well, you don't cook like my mother, or you don't do something that my father used to do, or, well, I really like that, you know, our friends, look at what their husband does for them, right? Very brutal. Makes people small. Number 4, people will listen to your opinions and not acknowledge or recognize that they came from you. A couple days later, it's all their idea. And they do it in a very publicizing way. So you'll be out somewhere with friends, and they'll say, oh yeah, I had this great idea. A lot of times they probably argued with you and told you were stupid, and then all of a sudden it's a great idea when they're around their friend. So that's making you small. And that brings in the demons of powerlessness and mockery. And you start to become a slave of mockery. That's the other thing. You know, when they're minimizing what you contributed, and your opinions and your ideas, and they take them as their own, they're mocking you. But remember, that puts mockery on you. So if you start saying to yourself, oh my goodness, I think I just mocked somebody. Where in the heck did that come from, right? Why is mockery coming up in my head? It's because you start being a slave to mockery. You get mocked and mock others. And it sucks the joy and the energy out of your life. You cannot be gracious to others, and you don't give them the benefit of the doubt. People make up their minds instantly, finishing others' sentences or ideas by butting in. So if we're finishing others' sentences and butting in, if you've ever had that, been there, done that, and it's almost like you just don't stop it. Like, it's like you're not even you. You can hear yourself doing it once you recognize it. And then you're sitting there going, why are you interrupting that person? Like you're saying that in your head. But that is because it was out of smallness. So you can't be gracious to others. So, in other words, the person who said, wow, my family's bitter, and they all feel small, how much mockery do you think is in there? And right? There's a lot of mockery. And do they give people the benefit of the doubt? Probably not. Are they gracious to others? Probably not. So when you see that, you know what to pray for those people. You see where it is. And then you can start sowing seeds of love into them and pointing out things to them that they can connect and come out of that. And there's nothing like a public gathering or a wedding to start seeing, well, especially weddings, because a lot of emotions come out. Never had an idea of this when I was younger. But a lot of emotions come out and a lot of things happen. And it's interesting just going around and sowing seeds in people and saying, oh, hey, I saw your wedding pictures. They were absolutely beautiful. Or, oh, I really like how your hair is today, or something. Just acknowledging them and then just seeing them start to warm up and open. Being honest, not fake, but being honest. And just taking a real interest in them and what you saw and bringing that out in there and being truthful about it is, or just saying, you know what, I am really glad that I met you today. I really like the fact that you came in here and you had a great time and we really enjoyed your company. That's not making that person small, it's recognizing them, right? And all of a sudden, you look at your watch and they're staying longer and they're dancing more and they're talking more to people, right? So you can start sowing seeds into them. Also, another thing under 4 is when people will listen to your opinions but not acknowledge or recognize they came from you, you'll notice that you start to have repetition. When people use repetition of events, they are overcompensating. They're overcompensating for that lack, that smallness, that lack of recognition of who they are, right? They're like, see me, remember this. And so that starts to happen. Number 5 is where we try to overcome the lack of education. This is the smallness demon attacking. When you have a lack of education, if you've grown up and you didn't do well in school and maybe didn't graduate, and I know somebody who, how many years ago it was a long time ago they didn't graduate. It still bothers them today, and I think they're 60. And it still bothers them that they didn't graduate. Well, you know what they learned in all those years? Way more than you'd ever know at 18 when you graduated. They graduated how many times over already, right? But because they don't have that piece of paper and stamp of approval from the Alberta government, then I guess, you're not any good. You must be small, right? So, and that's not true. So what happens, the effects of that is thinking you don't know anything. And the problem is what happens is when you don't think you know anything, you start putting that on your children and on other people around you. Another effect is doing things in the excess, over reading, over singing, over anything, because you got I have to be able to do this to be approved, because I have this lack of education. And so you just keep wanting to do more and more in that to compensate. And then the third effect is the person with this effect will wonder, why are you in their face? Why are you putting me down? And that is very true. When the position that I had with the young people in the school, it was when I went in there, everybody had university degrees, and they just thought it was the best thing. But after I was there for 3 years, I realized these people don't know a lot. They didn't have wisdom. They had procedures. They knew what you weren't supposed to do according to the law because they studied it. But they didn't have any wisdom. And they didn't have any love. So if you don't have any love, you can't have wisdom. They go together. And so really, it didn't really help them, because if you don't have love, what do you have? You have nothing, right? And so what happens is that if they would say something to me or refer to something, I would feel like they were in my face at first, when I first started. And I felt like they were always putting me down. But I was there to learn what an education actually means, what it actually does for you. It does concrete things. You get really good writing skills, you get procedure skills, there's lots of things that you receive from it. And I was able to separate that from who you are as a person, and that there's skills that you gain. And those skills that you gain doesn't make you better or worse, you just have skills in a certain area. But before that, it was like they were always in my face. But it was really this whole smallness that was in my face. And once I recognized really what was going on, then it didn't bother me anymore. Number 6, people have to make you small and feel small, so you have to serve them, both physically and mentally. Usually a lot of mental abuse. They want to download on you to carry the weight, so they want you to carry the weight because they don't want to lay it down to Yeshua. They'll lay it down on you. So one of the things is, if you find before lay down, usually about a day before lay down, somebody will start talking to you, even in church here, and they'll start telling you all the things that are bothering them. They're laying it down on you. They're not laying it down to Yeshua. So just watch that couple of days, a little bit before lay down, if they start really going. If they increase in their talk and start talking at you, and they tell you your problems, because they're actually supposed to be putting on their lay down list and laying it down. But they'll try to lay it down on you. So they download on you to carry the weight, and everything is your fault. When you feel small, things will make you happy. You think things will make you happy, and that you can earn people's respect. It was really kind of interesting. I went to say goodbye to somebody who was moving away, and I was not very happy about them moving away, and I was really upset about it. I thought I could not be upset about it, but that didn't work. I got upset about it. I wasn't angry, I just cried. And what they cursed me with was, oh, well, you didn't care while I was here. Well, that wasn't true at all. Whenever they phoned me, I talked to them. Whenever they said, let's get together, I got together, right? But they want to just download on you and keep you small. They don't see what's actually going on. And so, I guess that's what they think. But it's not true. You start to skew what other people are thinking, or you'll decide what they're thinking, and you have even no clue. Did they ask me how I was thinking? No, nothing, right? They don't ask. So, and don't assume what other people are thinking. Just ask them. If you're not bold enough to ask them, then don't think about it. Don't think about them that way. Number 7, when you hate, people hate you and put you in a hate mode. So if you start to feel hate, why are you feeling hate? They want to make you extra small, like a bug on the rug, a little bug, when you hate. They were trying to make you feel extra guilty, extra ashamed, and extra fearful of the repercussions, and to fix your focus on fear of those repercussions, so that they can have their way. So a lot of people have, well, how many people with all the restrictions said, well, I hate anybody, I'm going to delete anybody, I'm going to hate people if they don't do this and this and this that I think they should do. Right? And if anything happens, you have to be guilty. No. But that's what they do. They make people small, because if you're in fear, then people can manipulate you into whatever they want you to do. Yesterday, somebody came double masked. I told them, take it off. You're outside. Take it off. And they did, to a certain extent. And they said, yeah, but that person over there, they're scared. I said, that's their fear, that's not yours. Don't take on their fear. You're outside. It's not going to work anyway. Number 8, when a doctor doesn't listen to you and sees you as a number, they demand you must listen to what they say.
That's when you get up and walk out.
That is when you get up and walk out. It's like, whoo, I don't think this is going to be a good team effort. Let's go. Bye-bye. Yes. And as far as women's health is concerned, this is a really big issue, for sure. When that doctor doesn't listen to you, and seniors, big issue with seniors, because the doctors don't listen, and they definitely see you as a number. And they think they can do cookie cutter things, and it does massive amounts of problems, especially with seniors. With women, they just think you're emotional and have no concept of what a person's going through. So when you find a doctor who actually listens and knows something, it's just, you just want to hug them. So they're cursing you when the doctor does that and they don't listen, they're cursing you with smallness and they're cursing you with blindness so that you don't see past their game plan. I went to a doctor. It was a skin doctor. And I don't know if his whole body even got into the office. The nurse did everything, and he literally basically walked in the door, went over, did something, said, here's this, left, and the nurse actually explained it to you. Never going back there again. And I think I made a comment to him. I said, well, the root of that is like yeast in your body because it does this, this, and this. And he goes, oh, really? And he walked out. Okay, won't be coming back here again. That was probably after an hour and a half wait. See, smallness. Number 9, medical staff making you feel small. Like knowledge accounts for nothing. Like your knowledge of life and who you are, and you've lived with yourself, or maybe it's your parent or your spouse, and you've lived with them for 30 years. Like you kind of know them, right? But they don't even acknowledge anything, that your knowledge of that person or who you are or anything counts for nothing. And that brings in 2 things, hopelessness and lovelessness. And if you've ever been in a situation where you've had to take your parents into the hospital and your knowledge accounts for nothing, lovelessness definitely comes in really quickly. Where's that hate thing going on back there? That will come in too. So I remember when I was about 22, no, I was probably 23, 24, and I was married, and my husband was in the hospital, and I looked really young for my age, and all the doctors came in, and I was talking to him, and he was in the hospital. All the doctors came in, pulled all the curtains in front of my face, and pushed me out, and just put the curtains in front of my face. Lovelessness came in, and hate, mockery, a few other things came in that day. So you discount the love and attention and knowledge that you have for your, they discount it that you have for your family and friends, and that you watch them and you know the patterns in their life. It discounts the years of experience you have with living with somebody. Number 10, here's the kid. So number 10 is calling someone a kid. It implies you're worthless. That if you were sacrificed, you would not be missed. You're behind that door when God handed out all the talents. So that's number 10. And I find that there's a lot of people who refer to their child, especially if they have one. And there's something about that with a single parent too. There's a lot of smallness that comes in on single parents. And so they'll say, oh, the kid. Or they'll be divorced and they'll be by themselves and it's the kid. So it really shows up with them. But that's because of smallness and what people do to them. Number 11 is rejection from uncles and aunts. Brings in smallness. Because to the children, it means that you're not meeting their standards. You don't meet up to anything that's valuable enough to know who you are or even acknowledge you. And it did not maybe add up to the same religiosity standard that they have, whatever religion they're in, which is, doesn't mean it's Christian, right? So rejection from aunts and uncles will make people feel small. And those are really big rejections because those people are older than you. They saw you when you were born. And that's a really big making you small. Definitely. When they're not there, they're supposed to be there to support you and to support your parents. And by not acknowledging you at all and just leaving you. One of the things that I have said to Shelley, and we pass this on to others, is, they sit there and they run your children down. And they run you down as a parent. But you know what? Where were you? Oh, nope, crickets, just hear crickets, right? They're not there. But they sit back in their easy chair and go, oh, look how, your children have turned out and what's happened to you. Oh, that's funny. Where were you? Not even there. Sorry, no opinion. You have no opinion. Yeah, your opinion counts as 0. But that's smallness. Number 12. Teachers, politicians, employers promise things and don't do them. Well, there's parents that promise things and don't do them because they think children will forget. Children don't forget.
Friends.
Yes, friends. Yes, friends too. You are. What they're saying is you're not worth telling the truth to. Your emotions are such. You can only receive deception and fakery. So if people do that to children, they're putting deception on their own children, and fakery, and that fakery, it gives a false flatter to be able to manipulate you. So they promise things, but teachers do it too. They'll promise them, well, if you do this and this and this, then we're gonna go here, or you're gonna get this. And then when the time comes to do it, they go, well, we can't do that now because you didn't do this and that and the other thing, and pick up this and pick up that and pick up this and pick up that. And really what the parent is saying is, yeah, I really don't feel like going out today. Or the teacher's like, yeah, well, I changed my mind. That'd be too much effort. But then they do that to manipulate. So that makes them small. In Matthew 5:17 it says, allow your statement to be yes. When you say yes, it's yes. When you say no, it's no. And anything beyond this is evil. In James 5:12, but above all, my brethren, do not swear either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath, but your yes is to be yes and your no is to be no, so that you may not fall under judgment. So we're talking about evil and judgment. So we really need to think about that. And I know that when we're asked to do things, when we really believe these statements that our yeses to be yes and our no's to be no, when you go to say no to somebody and later on you want to do it, you really need to stick with your no, right? And yes, the same thing. So you start to slow down your speech and agree to things really fast when you actually have to follow through with what you said you would do. Number 13, waiting in line for a movie or at the bank. When people butt in or push your cart, what they're saying is their time, their existence is far more important than you. They are the Lord, the Master, and you have to worship them. Right? If somebody says, well, Dad eats first before the children, I knew a family that did that. It hasn't gone well. That is making your children small. It's making you small when somebody pushes and butts into line. It makes people small. And it brings in two demons, intolerance and hatred. And you can definitely see, again, if you see someone who's intolerant, they're acting out of smallness. So if I'm thinking of like university, or there's a lot of situations in schools and things like that where you would definitely see smallness come in through just this alone. People butting in or pushing in, or, well, I know somebody, so I got in ahead of that person because they knew somebody. They butted in. Number 14, government and banks has made everyone small. They say you have no soul, no dignity, no value. Just a useless burden that they have to deal with. No service. You have to give your number first. Or you walk into the bank now, you have to put your card in, which is giving your number. They won't even talk to you. If you don't put your card in first, they look at you like, are you stupid? I can't talk to you till you put that card in. Right? A little bit of hatred comes up as soon as I start talking about that. Okay. Or have you been on hold? How many government things have I had to be on hold for, especially at work? Your call is important to us. I do not want to hear that lie one more time.
Yeah. 4 hours later.
4 hours later. Yes, it was an hour and a half. And then they cut me off and I had to phone back. It took 2 mornings to get through to CRA. Like, and they go, oh, we'll go on our website. Well, the question I had to ask doesn't line up with A and B. You know, like, there's this thing called, thought and, your mind, and things are not black and white that way. But yes, they definitely do that. And so, what does that bring in? That smallness brings in 2 demons, mockery and 3. I said the first one already. Lying. They're lying. Mockery and deception. So when you accept shortages and lockdowns and discrimination from the government, and when you accept the government is allowed to create those shortages to block your security and enjoyment of life, well, then we open ourselves up to 7 demons. So you can't accept it. You have to reject it and lay it down. And the demons are hostility, fear of lack, frustration, dishonorable words, negative prophecy into your future, because it says I'm going to be in lack for the rest of my life when the government says there's going to be shortages. Well, the government doesn't have to be that way. Number 6 is squandering. And number 7, fretting comes in. And then number 15, and this is halfway. We're going to stop at halfway today. So by the way, just so you know, this is part 1A. That's it. Okay, so let's give you 15. Accepting shortages brings smallness into your life. Once they create and you do not oppose more shortages coming, then you start going into devaluation, more inflation. So you accept the false idea of loss and lack, and you cannot move forward. And you start to reject God's promises, which is self-annihilation, right? That's self-annihilation. So we will repeat what we were to do. When people treat you small, declare forgiveness first. Then declare you will not accept anything from bitterness. Then ask God for guidance to lay that smallness down. So you can see how in a family that when smallness comes in, there's so many boxes being checked off in my brain and connections being coming together, but I'm just thinking this one family where this person said, our family has a lot of bitterness. I'm going, yeah. The grandparents were made small, the parents were made small, then their children were made small, now their grandchildren are being made small. And absolutely, because there's not being taught the gift of forgiveness and lay down to be able to get out of that smallness. But I think this is really helpful when we're out with people, because once we recognize it, then we can be the light of the world, to that when somebody does something, you can say, well, that's smallness happening here. Hang on. You can pray and ask the Holy Spirit to give you the words that can sow seeds into their life to get them out of that smallness once you recognize it's there. So, okay. So that is part 1A. And we're going to be taking communion after this. But what we want to do is we want to have a true identity of who we are and walk in our true identity. So we will be breaking off false identities, because we definitely have those things we need to deal with. Shalom.